And we're live. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for this, our last panel discussion on the very first framework. Thanks especially for joining us on a Saturday. It's great to have you all here. A special thanks to Laura Frank and everyone who worked so hard to put this event together. Just listening to the chatter in the chat window and the texts and the Slacks I've been getting throughout these last 2 days, it's so clear that there's a real hunger for this kind of content and for this for the strength of a community that we can build together. So that's super exciting. I'm Soren West, and I'll be your host for this last panel discussion. I'll say, first of all, that I consider it a tremendous honor to be considered part of this community. I am but a producer, and as you all know, we generally know just enough about what you do to be terribly dangerous and impose generally avoidable all-nighters. I know I've done that to some of you. So thanks so much for having me as part of this. This community represents to me some of the smartest humans I know, and it's a pleasure to work alongside you. Our panel discussion today is about the startup mindset and how the events of the world right now have sort of catapulted each of us back into that mindset, like it or not. And we have some distinguished guests with us who certainly know about the startup mindset, each of whom has started a company. Let's go around the horn. We have with us Rob Jalil. He is the founder, CEO and co-founder of Toy Robot. Rob, tell us a bit about you and your company.
Hi, hello everyone. Nice to be here. So yeah, I'm Rob. I run Toy Robot Media, which is a content, creative and technology company. The order of that is up for grabs at any given time. But yeah, we've been going since about 2013. We quite a large amount of our work has been kind of corporate communications, so we get involved in quite heavy content and PowerPoints and keynotes. But we also, a lot of our work is animation, editorial, XR. We've been firmly planted in live events for a while. We've had some other kind of work, but yeah, we're just excited to see where things are going.
Excellent, thanks, Rob. And we have with us Nick Rivero. Nick is the chief technologist and co-founder of Meptic. Nick, tell us a bit about Meptic.
Yeah, hey there. So we're based out of Atlanta, Georgia in the States, and Meptic was founded by myself, but the original founder is my wife, Sarah, actually, and she came from a background in projection mapping and masters in motion animation. So we originally started there and then really moved beyond that to so many things. And what we really try to focus on now is how we combine her passion of creativity with mine of innovative technology to create connecting human experiences is what we say. And we work a lot, predominantly in experiential and activation spaces, but a lot of other things outside of that as well.
Excellent. And we have with us who runs a little thing called Notch. Luke, tell us about you and your company.
Hi, thanks, Soren. So I'm one of the three founders of Notch. We're a real-time content creation tool. We're based out of London, but our team is spread all over the world. A lot of you might have come across our products. It's used quite extensively for bringing content to live events, stage, concert, but it's used in lots of other areas as well. A little bit about my background. So I've done a number of startups over the years, some in this space, but in telco as well. But I think this area in terms of live events and content creation has been one of the most enjoyable.
Fantastic. And again, I'm Soren West, and just a quick bit of history on me, especially in the context of startup. I served as the CEO of Atomic Design for many years and was part of that company from very, very early on, and grew it from 3 employees to 120 some. I was one of the founders of Beam Lighting that was sold to 4Wall a few years ago, and I was one of the founding partners at Rock Lytics. And I left all that just a few years ago to move to Los Angeles and pursue cross-platform and immersive entertainment. And so I'd just been through the startup cycle, having lost lots of money in 2017 and 2018, and then finally turning the corner in 2019 and having a great year and feeling like Elliot Dunwoody and I and our team had finally arrived, and came into 2020 looking strong, and now we're back in startup mode. So that's been quite an adjustment to sort of downshift and rediscover some of that scrappy, aggressive, ambitious hunger that's required to press on as a startup. Guys, how has the last few months catapult each of you and your companies back into startup mode? Let me start with you, Nick.
Yes. So a friend and colleague in Atlanta put it best. Is he said, "I've never worked harder for free before," and I think for all of us in the client services world in particular, I imagine we can all relate right now. Is, you know, what is it? Almost 4 months ago now, the entire live events industry just got its figurative head chopped off, and I think we're in this mode of reinventing and rediscovery, and we're all kind of trying to put our heads back on and figure out, you know, where are we, what's going on, what's happening. And so from that standpoint, we're all just working on a personal note. We're all just working to figure out, you know, what's next, but also where do you go from here? You know, the thing I say a lot is, when I was last in my office with my full team back in February, I told them the day we left, and I said, I want you all to remember that when you leave this office today, the world you leave is not the same world that you will come back to when you step foot back in this office in however many months. And that's where we're at, is trying to figure out what is this world we're going to all be stepping back into, but it's not what was before us.
Yeah, that's for sure. Rob, I'll ask you the same question. How has this time catapulted you into startup mode? And sort of reflecting on Nick's comment, and it's interesting that you had the foresight to know that, Nick, as you left the office. Do you, Rob, feel do you with that knowledge now that we all have? Do you maintain an optimism, or what's the general temperature at Toy Robot?
I'm optimistic. I mean, I feel like we have to choose to be optimistic, you know, and I think the optimism comes from trying to take an honest look at the clients we did have and the work we did do, and try and pull from that, you know, honestly why that was happening. So that's been it's a difficult process, but you know, we did have clients, and we do have clients, and you know, we specialized in this niche that was live events, but you know, trying to find out those kind of elements of why people might want to use this has been an interesting process. I mean, we as a company, we grew slowly and organically, you know, so what that meant was we never really had to do the work of the sales work of going out and doing outreach. So we just kind of grew off nice, warm referrals from really lovely friends, such as yourself. And so once the revenue kind of dipped, it's like my job and our job has been kind of, you know, moving into sales and, you know, being more bold about kind of pushing out, because, you know, it isn't just kind of going up to our clients and saying, look, we've got these new skills that we've been working on for a while, you know. it's also moving horizontally into other potentially adjacent businesses or services that are involved. But yeah, I am optimistic because this is, and I think a lot of people have said this. It's an acceleration of things that were always happening. You know, the real time thing. Even irrelevant to the lockdown, the real time thing was incredibly exciting for all sorts of reasons. And you know, we were moving in those directions. You know, in retrospect,
Yeah.
maybe we didn't do it fast enough, but we're working hard.
Rob, have you had to change your core offerings as you go out in sales mode?
Well, that's the really interesting point because you know, we're always trying to move what our kind of core capabilities are, but we have to be honest about what we've got the experience in, and that's why I'm saying we've been looking at what we were doing, and trying to take out those elements. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. Luke, first, on behalf of the entire producer community, I'd just like to say thank you for a product that does away with all that tedious and expensive content development. And now we just push a button and we can have virtually anything we want in real time. It's fantastic. So thank you for that.
Yeah, wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah. Tell us about how things have changed at Notch over the last few months and how it's put you into startup mode.
So I think, you know, we've had, like many other people have talked about, this huge rush of inbound where your clients are coming to you and our users are coming to us with questions, or they're going through and they're trying to upskill. So we're dealing with a huge volume of work. We're doing nearly double the support tickets that we were doing in the last quarter of 2019. But I think one of the biggest challenges that exists at present is we're watching the pressure that our users are under to pivot and deliver new things to their clients, because their clients are all pushing for this drive to virtual, and they're spinning really hard as well. So we're in this balance place where we're trying to hear all that static and just kind of pick out the threads that we think are going to stay for the industry over the next 12-18 months, rather than the hype things that people are talking about, end clients are talking about today. So there's been a lot of listening and taking the development team and taking them on small detours to be able to be responsive and give people what they need today. But there's no doubt about it. It's been a huge change. We've spent the last years developing face to face, and we fly all over the world seeing our users and customers, and just to stop that overnight has been huge. And to take all our courses and programs of work online, the guys have been working just stupendously hard to go and turn those things around. So it's been an incredibly busy period, like I think it has for a lot of people.
Yeah, I'll echo Nick's comment, or his friend's comment, that I've never worked this hard for free. But I think echoing a theme that we've been hearing over all of these talks is that acceleration of toys that were on the shelf in one form or another, and all of a sudden these toys are the focal, almost singular focal areas for our business. Luke, you said something interesting about sort of what's hot right now and maintaining an awareness of what's going to be hot in 18 months, I think you alluded to. And it's something we talk a lot about in our office. And yes, Zoom is cool, and virtual production is cool, and I think it's here to stay. But I also believe, I think it was Neil who was talking about hugging at a funeral. I believe we have an innate need to gather, and we will do that again. There's too much riding on it, both as humans and as economies. And so we will gather again, I believe. I'd love to hear from you, Luke, as you talk about what's hot in 18 months, or how the talk of today survives or folds into the future of your business. What does that look like?
Yeah, so I think it's probably easy to discuss the things that are going to stay the same. So the things that stay the same really are the creative-led process that runs through all of these productions, and you just simply cannot shortcut that. We've always had this desire to make real time for video essentially what it's been like for lighting for the last decades. You move that fader and you get that instant change on stage, and really that kind of workflow and the creativity that can come out of that is what we've wanted in video, and that's not going away. It doesn't matter if you're dealing with that on a virtual stage or whether you're dealing with that in a physical stage. Those things stay the same. I think the other thing that's been touched upon already is that the changes that we're all facing were already coming. This is just being accelerated. But I think as we look at the patterns of what's emerging, people will always want to be entertained. People will always want to be engaged. People will always want to hug. And I did a piece of work a number of years ago which looked at various different markets in the US, and one stat that came out for me really strong was when you look at Broadway from 1980 to present, they've opened 35 to 42 shows on Broadway every single year through all crises that have occurred from that time. And so it's almost like a steady as she goes, and I know that's not terribly exciting to say, but I think it for us has been really critical to not kind of get washed around during this time. But on the flip side, as I say, try and be responsive to people.
That's a very interesting answer. I like the steady as she goes sentiment. It doesn't come naturally to me. Nick, where do you see your business in 3 years? And if you could catapult yourself into that time frame, how did this period of time affect who you became as a company?
Yeah, when people have been asking me, like, where do you see yourself? My answer is always, just in 2021. That's my initial response, is I just want to get to 2021 first.
Yeah.
And so in terms of 3 years, I think it's a lot of what Luke's saying is, society has been through things before, and not to devalue by any means the amount of things that are happening in the world. Us in our industry have been through other things that have happened. And, I've always had this saying that society in a big picture rides a wave. It's like a sine wave. We go up, we come down, we go up, on. And I think that's just where we're at, is we're in a down right now. We're in this thing with all this happening. But like you all are saying, is we will get back to that up. And I think so much of that is true, is we need to just keep persevering ahead. And the things that are core always return, like Luke's saying, is, the core principles are always there, is how to tell a story, how to create something visually. How we do that, the form might change. The form of visuals, as we all know, has changed significantly in 100 years, from non-existence to full industry. So that is true. But the thread under that is always consistent, which is telling creativity in a visual way, for instance, or something, So I think that those kind of things are always going to keep threading through in the future.
Yeah. That you're tapping into something that I think I'm going to presume that everyone here today can relate to, a love of that core process and those core creative questions and the kind of thinking that's required to answer them, even if the tools are ever changing. On the note of the ever-changing tools, another theme that has come out of these discussions, and one I think that we face all the time, is a question of vocabulary and language and titles. Nick Fletcher brought up I think something that frustrates us all at different times is how titles can be confusing or troubling as you have different verticals coming together. You know, we're already a mashup of theater and television and touring and brand agency, and it seems like now gaming will be joining us and coming with a whole, perhaps a new set of titles and language and workflows. And all of that, to my mind, highlights the job we all have, or the challenge we have to educate clients and communicate clearly among ourselves. Rob, tell us about those challenges in your business and how you have any tricks? Text us when you have the answer to that.
I only have questions, no answers. I think you put it really well when we spoke earlier about that not knowing whether to invent a new tool or take a tool that exists and learn the best way of doing that. Because the struggle is the kind of the timing of it. You know, when the pandemic first happened, you know, obviously we were like, okay, we got to pivot hard and we've got to pivot fast, but we can't. It's hard to know how quickly we kind of need to do that. And what is totally clear is that the kind of the platforms that do exist and have been working for a while, they've had a lot longer runway to kind of get going. So, you know, clients are asking us about creating these virtual environments, and then you talk through it, and as you mentioned, they're asking for fortnights. And like, if they actually had any clue in the amount of years and budget that it took to get there, they'd probably having a different conversation. So yeah, I don't have a ton of answers, but you know, just taking an honest, you know, really with the clients, taking an honest look at what they're actually trying to get to. Because what we are seeing is, you know, previously it might be they want some animation or they want some still graphics, they might want some 3D work, and now it's like real time has entered into that conversation. But I think down the road, it's all just a grab bag of tools to get to the essence of what you were talking about, Nick, which is, you know, the human interaction and why are people going to shows? I mean, shows are as old as humanity, really, aren't they?
For sure. I on the topic of the different tools that are out there and how we put ourselves forward in this rapid dive into the deep end of virtual, and I'd love to hear from each of you about any point of inspiration or something you've learned in the last few months that has sort of maybe altered your vision or your dream for your business. Nick, can you point to anything like that?
Ooh, that's a kind of tough, deep question, I would say. Is like, in this season, and maybe if I answer it a little bit differently, is like, in this season is moving forward and finding you know, inspiration and where we go in these things it has moments of immense difficulty, I think, and immense just weight of like, what do you do in this and where do you go? And you know, then there's a flip of a switch and everything feels very optimistic as you start getting phone calls and these things start happening. You start feeling this energy again. So yeah, I think I'll leave the thought there.
Okay, that's great. Luke, have you found any particular point of inspiration that maybe changed your mind a little bit?
Yeah, I think there's been a couple of points actually. One is just recognizing how resourceful people are. And I know everyone is really tired and has been running really hard through this period, but just seeing people's versatility. We were talking about labels and roles before, watching people kind of do things that I never expected them to do, to be able to push forward. And also, it sounds cliche, but there have been some really solid collaborations that I've seen where artists have had the time to sit down, and creatives had the time to sit down with technologists. And you're seeing the seed of a bunch of ideas that they're going to use again in the future. But that kind of space that some people have managed to have. Maybe they don't have kids running around their feet all day long. Who knows? But there's it has been fantastic, and it does make me more optimistic about where we're going to be able to land moving forward. Because I think the narrative, the tools narrative, can sometimes be the one thing that we're always talking about learning new tools, etc. But it's when artists actually have the time away from a commercial project to actually have a play. That's when the really interesting things take place. So that's been exciting. And I know that it will be tough, and us arriving into 2021 is not going to be, perhaps the same big budgets. We're probably going to see a lot more caution from some of the end clients, but often the best work comes out under heavy constraints, smaller stages, shorter time frames, perhaps, or perhaps working in a virtual space. Those new types of constraints, I think, will bring out some great ideas.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that this time has created some space for really creative people to think in different ways, and I too have seen thinking that may not have come up because we all would have been too busy doing stuff. And a point of inspiration at our office, something my partner Elliot and I talk a lot about is how location-based entertainment and experience will relate to a digital world. And it feels to me like we've been foisted into a giant step closer to the metaverse, frankly. And that to me is very exciting. And I think that it's also clear to me that this community, each of us on this call, each of us in Framework and the colleagues that we hold so dearly and work for and with every day, there is so much room for us. There's so much room in the marketplace. And I think it can be very challenging in these times, and finances are stretched thin, and we're sort of in the description of this talk of this panel, it talked about 20 years of experience, top of your game. It's so December 19, and there's definitely a feeling of unease that comes with it. But I'm hearing a lot of optimism from you guys in our talks about your businesses, and I'm hearing a lot of optimism across the board in this event. And I'm just so delighted to see this community coming together to strengthen ourselves and begin this conversation that I think will serve us well in defining vocabulary and educating clients and determining best workflows and really inventing the future of our careers and the future of entertainment. So very exciting. I think we only have a few, maybe 1 minute left. I'll open it up. Any final thoughts?
Oh.
Go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, just to mirror what you said, Luke, and has been said a few times, like the kind of collaboration, the partnership, and the sort of skill sharing that's going on has been an incredibly positive part of things. We're talking to partner agencies in a way we wouldn't before. People are laying their cards on the table and sharing their skills rather than being kind of siloed. And yeah, everyone's having a go at doing everything, and that's
Yeah.
It's, despite the uncertainty, that's incredibly exciting.
We found that too. We've taken tremendous encouragement. People are taking the call and sharing notes, and it's really great.
Yeah.
Well, thanks everyone. Thank you, gents, for being part of this with me. Thank you, everyone watching. Please stick around as we go into the social hour, which Laura will tell you about. Thanks, everybody.
My thanks to the panels, and my thanks to all of you for joining us today. I am grateful for your participation and excited to see where we take it from here. Before we head over to social hour, let's review how the sessions work over there. If you've gone over to Uru Connects, please come back into the Hopin platform. You will find the sessions in the left navigation bar. When you load the sessions page, you will see an open general session and 4 sessions related to the panels that were held today. All sessions are limited to 20 active users who can share their audio and video. Please reload the session page if Hopin gives you any trouble with your audio and video settings. If the session you are trying to access is full with audio and video participants, you can still view and listen until there is a slot available. Access to the panel sessions are moderated by the panel speakers. After you give Hopin permission to use your camera and microphone, the moderators will bring you into the session. Please enjoy your time to communicate with everyone there and ask questions. Attendees can also start their own sessions. These are set to allow anyone to enter as they like, but I saw reports yesterday of issues. This was tested again today, and my best suggestion, if you have any problems starting your own session, is to just reload the page and try again. So I'll end by thanking everyone again for being here and helping us build Framework. I'm truly humbled to see so many friendly names and faces gathered together to support our first online gathering. I hope you all are feeling as inspired as I am. We'll see you in the chat sessions.